Hey everyone, Wanderbot here, and welcome to yet another developer interview. This time I'm going to be sitting down with Tim and Thorbjorn from Guidelight Games, the developers of SpellRogue, which is a dice-based deck builder that just came out on Steam in early access today. And I'll have a link in the description below, so if you want to check it out yourselves, you can. We're also being joined by my good friend Retromation. With all that said, let's just dive right in. So I might as well start us off easy and just say, can you give us a short elevator pitch for SpellRogue? I know both Retromation and I have played it a lot more than any pre-release game that I think either of us have ever played for the most part. But for people that have never seen SpellRogue before, what is it and what makes it special?
Yeah, so SpellRogue is a deck building roguelike where you roll dice and you spend them to cast spells. You play as the dice slinger, and you will experiment with the combinations of ancient artifacts and powerful magic to defeat the corrupting void warriors and save the world. So essentially, it's all about dice and manipulating dice to cast spells and defeat enemies.
Okay, and it's out on February 12th. I might as well ask, because you are launching in early access, do you have any major upcoming plans? Because I think that's kind of an important question to ask leading up to an early access release. Like, what's not in the game yet? What are you hoping to add? And do you have any, do you have kind of a tier list of all the things that you'd like to add depending on how the game performs? Or is it going to be one of those where it's like, no, these are the exact things that you want. You just need some more time to do it.
So I think there's one main thing that we really want to get in as soon as possible. It's going to take a bit of time, but we want to add the air wizard to the game.
Okay.
That's something we've been working on a bit on the side. So already have a bunch of ideas we're working on, but actually making all the graphics and just balancing the whole set of spells, it's going to take a while. But that's one of the certain things we definitely want to do. But I think besides that, we don't really have a tier list of things because we have a long list of ideas, things that we want to add to the game.
Okay.
But we really want to see how it evolves after early access release, and we have to also just do some brainstorming, figure out exactly what is it
we have a ton of ideas already that we have cut from the game. So we have a long list as well as a content that we can sort of polish up and actually put into the game. But besides that, the community is really important to us, and so we want to listen to the community and what they want. And there's of course also the obvious ones, like just more content in the form of enemies and bosses and more spells, more artifacts, more of everything, basically.
Let's see. So you're planning on adding the air wizard. Are there any other wizards that you'd like to add as well, or is it kind of the hard cap on 4?
There's no hard cap.
Okay.
And we used to have a different one that was sort of like a prism of multiple colors, but that might be more of a game mode than an actual wizard.
Yeah, that could be kind of fun.
It is a possibility. It's something we looked at earlier, that we had more wizards that mix different elements, and we did more of that. But it's something that it's a huge thing, so it's probably not going to be something that comes in an early update at least.
Okay. We had one guy suggested that we should make a wizard of love or something like that. So I thought that was kind of interesting and cool.
Yeah,
but
the 5th elements.
Have that pop up around Valentine's Day and only Valentine's Day.
Oh yeah, that might be a thing.
Let's see. So I guess I didn't check. How many spells are currently in the game? For each of the different, you can ballpark it. I don't need the exact number.
I have the stats. I'm looking directly at the stats.
Okay.
Now. It's the exact numbers. We have 69 earth spells, 72 fire spells, and 68 water spells.
Okay. Any reason why? Well, I guess I was going to ask any reason for the disparity, because I know water has been kind of the main one that you've had in the demo. It's really the only character I've ever played, because I'm always afraid to play the untested character and show off something I'm not supposed to. I was kind of expecting the water wizard to just have even more spells just due to longevity.
Yeah, but I get the way we've been developing this game is the whole demo thing is kind of a new thing. Previously, we had the whole build available to everyone. That's most of development. It's been like that. Everyone could play all the wizards. So we just slowly develop them all the different wizards over time. So we didn't really focus on. It's only recently that we started focusing on just single wizards. And I think the disparity is mostly just because we get like one good idea for a spell, then we find out later like, oh, we actually need to disable some spells for a different wizard because they have some issues or whatever. So it's, I don't know, during development, it just fluctuates a bit with all the spells.
Do you know
think,
how many?
sorry.
Okay. No, you can continue.
Like the specific number right now is like, it's sort of a balance between if you have too many spells, it becomes like too difficult to assemble something that might actually work together. If you have like 50 poison spells and 50 hailstorm spells, you might only like random into pull things in the draft that are only one thing that doesn't fit into what you're doing. So having too many can also like be a problem. So right now,
no, that makes sense. Let's see. So I guess as part of the more spells, do you kind of, with that limitation in mind, do you have kind of an idea of how many spells you'd like to add for each character, or is it just once again figure that out as you go along?
I think we figured out as we go along. I think that's how we develop most of the game. But so one thing that we are looking at a future update as well is kind of to rework how the like spell rarity works in general, and like maybe having a legendary mythical rarity for spells. So in that case, it might make sense that we can add like 15-20 more spells, and it still has that good balance of like you see thing you I don't know, you can kind of get some spells that it's not like too much.
So sneaking in an ultra rare tier, you don't have to worry too much about those clogging the pool because they're so rare.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it's probably going to be something like in later maps and the later acts, you find like the legendary. There's more higher chance for finding the legendary spells. So that's up. Yeah. It's also kind of big thing, but maybe that will be something in a early update after release.
Now, would they only show up in higher acts, or would they be something that would show up kind of early on? Because I always love it when I find like the one rare that defines the build, like 2 fights in.
And I start my run with it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then just not have to try.
Yeah. You never know. I know. I would love to have something like the random events still allowing you to do something crazy where you, I don't know, can sacrifice something for getting like a super overpowered spell or something.
The main idea for why we want to go in that direction as well is like towards the late game, you sort of get into like a set like build already, and then the later drafts in like the final act are less interesting. So we need something to entice you to like switch it up there as well.
Yeah, on that note, like I noticed, because I've played a lot of a lot of versions of the game, and I noticed a lot of changes were made to like make it so you would switch out of your initial spells. Like you could upgrade those originally, and I would always find that I would keep them all the way until the end because I'm like, well, it's hard to pivot out of something that's pre-upgraded. And then I think that cards could also be upgraded 2 times. Now they can only be upgraded once. And I find that it's definitely moved in a direction where you can justify switching later. So a legendary feels like the next step beyond that. And I could definitely see taking like a Giga spell later over something that I feel approached like I need this.
I have a whole thing that I've been slowly writing on deck builders and dice builders about how like once you get to the 3rd act, most new things are meaningless unless it's a really cool artifact.
That is a challenge.
And so I definitely like the idea of really tempting rare spells. It's like, oh, I got to break my entire build for this. So I guess the last thing about like kind of post-launch support is, do you have mod support planned at all? Or is it purely just going to be your vision, nobody touches it?
I think it really depends on community, how people react, and just, I don't know, how much resource we have. We are just, Tim and me is like the whole development team. So we are very limited from with like our resources, how much we can actually do.
So except for
we would love to do, it is a challenge.
So I guess on the note of it just being you two guys, so it really has just been both of your work the entire way through for the game. I'm assuming the soundtrack was probably from somebody else, but Otherwise, it's all of the programming and all of the art from just you two? Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's
Only the audio.
there's a few freelancers for especially audio design and some music, but mostly me and Thorbjorn. Yeah. There's also like a few assets here and there in the background that might be from a Unity store or something like that. But all the characters and spell effects are made by us.
Nice. I will admit I didn't actually find out that Thorbjorn was specifically the artist. I'm always just like, nope, these are the two developers, and I don't really think about the internal roles. And it's like
it is
finding
opposite
that out
as well.
is like,
I'm the programmer.
Yeah, and I'm the artist.
oh, sorry, I got that mixed up.
Oh, no worries.
Sorry, I'm so used to artists wearing beanies. I went to art school, and so it's just baked into my brain at this point. But
I have a cap over here I could put on if it helps.
It's fine. You don't have to conform to my stereotypes.
Don't let them change you.
Yeah, I don't know. I just hadn't found that out until earlier, and I was just like, oh, that's cool. Actually, I don't know. I'm on a big like recognizing the actual artist kick lately, so it's like, oh, I should pay more attention to that. Anyway, moving on, I guess I might as well ask, because you said you removed a number of spells. Oh, just due to balance or maybe similarities and stuff. How many spells have you like actually removed from the game, and how many like different ideas have you kind of cut from the game? Because Rito had mentioned upgrading spells twice, which I remembered and was actually thrown off by the removal of that. Not that it's bad. I was just like, wait, I thought this was a mechanic.
I was scared when it was removed, and then when I played a little bit more, I was like, "Oh, I feel so much more free
this makes sense.
Actually make changes now." It was great.
Good to see. But I think mostly it's just spells that has been redesigned somehow, or like it's rather that we just completely disable them. It's mostly just like maybe we disable them for a while, then we later on pick them up again and figure out some redesign for them. Because we often then we have like some graphics or we have some concept for the idea that like it kind of works but just need some changes. So it's I think there's more things that we've tried with spells early on, like mechanics that we tried with spells that we moved away from. So for instance, we have the morph mechanic, which we like I think that's a year and a half ago or something that we like worked on that whole mechanic, where like each spell have like two, or like not each spell, some spells have two sides onto them, so you can in some way you can morph the spell so it flips to the opposite side, and then there's some other effects you can play that side.
So essentially it would be two spells in one, right?
Ooh.
So that's one of the mechanics that we cut so far, because it just proved to be a little bit too complicated and too much, like right at the start. But potentially it's something we could like put in for like a later wizard, something like that.
Oh,
something that
later
seems
wizard,
very promising.
or the rare spells.
Maybe just wizard or something. Exactly. Yeah,
makes sense.
Or just the last spell you unlock for a wizard or something when you're like, all right, I'm ready for it.
Yeah. I definitely like unlocks being kind of the difficulty curve for the character. Like, hey, here's your really basic, starting builds / defend. Don't think about it too hard. And then eventually it's like, here's Fractal Shiv. Have fun.
If it's a Tuesday, this will actually just one-shot the boss.
Yeah. Let's see. So are there any cool like features that you did have to cut that you kind of wish you'd had time or the bandwidth to implement, or no, not really? Apart from morph, obviously.
Sure. So I know there's so many things like doing development. Like at one point we had like allies on the player side, so you could like spawn some units that were like could block block the enemy's attacks and attack from by themselves. And it felt like there was something really cool about this, but it just turned out to be way too much work to actually get it to work, and it was just, I know, too confusing and too complicated to communicate. But I know I still have like a feeling that someday we should try something similar, something that just works in a similar way.
It sounds like a different wizard almost.
Yeah. It could be something like that. Yeah, exactly.
Different wizard, or even a different dice builder. Because I don't think apart from Monster Train, I don't think I've seen a single dice builder or deck builder that really works well with summoned units, and so I'd be curious to see what somebody could do with that. Let's see, and then I guess kind of on the idea of for a different dice builder, do you have any ideas that you kind of wanted to add to a game, but you said, no, this doesn't belong in SpellRogue, but you'd really like to implement someday, like a mechanic that just stands out as really cool that you're saving for a rainy day?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I had like a small dream of making like a game about like sort of like Super Autopets mixed with Total War, sort of a Warhammer-ish things.
Okay.
Scripting armies and stuff like that, but that's like a completely different game.
Hey, that sounds
but, I
really
mean,
cool, though.
You always have more dreams for bigger things, right?
Oh, yeah.
But
So-
maybe the next project. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm in already for what it's worth.
Yeah, I recently got rehooked on Super Autopets, and I'm like, yeah, I like this. I just don't. I want it different somehow, and that sounds different
Just
enough
needs
that
more
I'd be.
war.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like a slightly more complicated or something, right?
Yeah.
What the?
So, I guess moving on, I don't know if it's presumptive of me to say, but I'm assuming one of the main inspirations for SpellRogue was Slay the Spire. What other inspirations did you have kind of leading into SpellRogue, and how did you really like kind of identify how to make it different?
So first of all, just some other inspirations. Of course, obvious one is Dicey Dungeons as a
Yep.
it's like the whole dice roll mechanic, which was really I don't know, that was what it like started the whole down the path of making a roguelike deck builder, because it was completely different. The game was completely different from when we first started it. We just slowly developed it over time.
So did it start as not a dice builder then? Was it like more card
Basically,
based?
so it was at very start. The game was about that you had a squad of wizards that that was like the emergency services in a town, and you had to send the wizards out to stop like break-ins or like bank robberies, stuff like that, or fire, and you had to send like the guys to turn on fire. And then it was just like you use the dice when you entered like encounters, and slowly over time we figured out like we just iterated on everything. We just kept changing and tweaking.
Yeah, and the original idea we couldn't really make work like perfectly.
Exactly.
So we just like kept changing it, and it like more and more just like morphed into what it is today, I think.
Okay.
So of course, Slay the Spire, Dicey Dungeons. There's also other games, Monster Train, Wild Frost. What's the other good one? Slice and Dice, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a lot of them.
There's so many.
And then of course there's board games as well. So I have a selection behind me.
Yeah, I've been looking at that, trying to like see if I recognize any of them, because I've got quite the selection behind me as well, and I'm like, well, I see the XCOM, I think I see Root, and maybe like Nemesis, but I'm not entirely sure.
Not Nemesis.
Whatever the bottom left one is.
Eclipse.
Eclipse. Okay.
Too many bones as well.
I haven't played that one yet. It's just a
game.
little too expensive for me to get it as an impulse buy.
Yeah, it is.
So I guess I might as well ask, like, for the board games that were the inspiration, did you have any specific? Because I have a lot of board games behind me, but I do have room for more.
Oh, always.
Recently, we bought Dice Throne, which is like a head-to-head sort of dice fighting game type thing, which is quite interesting. It's a 1 versus 1.
Yeah.
That's
I
cool.
play that with my girlfriend quite a bit. It's like a very approachable take on it. It kind of feels like PvP Yahtzee. It's nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I could describe it.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay. That's fine. Let's see. What else was there? I guess really, I guess that answers my question for the inspirations and board games. Let's see. I guess I have a couple more questions about like kind of how you split from Slay the Spire and Dicey Dungeons. So obviously you started with the kind of emergency services wizards, and it morphed into something a little bit more directly Slay the Spire. I'm always curious about this because the roguelike deck builder and dice builder genre has been kind of locked into the Slay the Spire template. what were your decisions on like how do we stand out from Slay the Spire specifically? How do we get out from under that shadow? Because I feel like that's almost assuredly the number one thing every single developer kind of in your subgenre has to deal with at this point.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's so during development, there's been so many times where we try to do our own thing. We try to do something different from the other roguelikes, and then over time it turns out like, actually the best thing is just to do the same as Slay the Spire or some other game. But I think in general, what like our goal has just been to really just embrace the D6s, just the simple dice, and just like throw a bunch of enchants on the dice and have all these effects that like modify the dice and which split them and merge them and so on. I think so. So we basically been taking the mechanics from Dicey Dungeon, the like basic things from that game, and just try to like really juice it up as much as possible and just make it as interesting as possible.
And push it forward, right? And make it a bit more modern, I guess, in a way. It is sort of like just like a love letter to both of those two games, I think.
Okay. Yeah, it works.
I think we kind of accepted from the start that we are not trying to create something like completely unique and different. We are just trying to take some ideas and just polish them and make them as good as possible.
For what it's worth, when I've played it, like I got the inspiration of Slay the Spire, but when like I sat down and I thought of it, I was like, why? Do I just feel that because it's a good turn-based roguelike? Because it's like a lot of the things that carry over are just like good practices mostly in a turn-based roguelike, because you know you are building a deck. It's kind of, but it's I always have an issue figuring out what to call the genre. Do you guys have any troubles trying to like summarize it tightly? Because every time I make a video, I'm like, it's not a dice builder because you're not adding anything to the dice. You're not building it. You're not really building a deck. I feel like it's in this genre that I didn't know what to call Dicey Dungeons either. It feels board gamey, and it feels like there's not a name for it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Totally agree. Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, so like you said, you do go for deck builder though. Typically.
Yeah, we do use deck building. Deck building, dice roguelike. It's usually the words I use because that's like the general gist of it.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. It's a tall ask, but I think it's really pushing forward whatever that genre is.
Yeah.
And
we need a new name for it. So
yeah.
Maybe when we get a couple more of them, then it'll just kind of fall in place. Or it's just going to be Dicey Likes, which just
we'll take the second half of the game and we'll just call them Roguelikes. Wait a minute.
Yeah. Let's see. I guess you'd mentioned going for the D6s. Did you try other dice, or was it D6 just like the natural conclusion? Or did you at some point throw in D20s as just like a, hey, why the heck? Let's see if this works.
We did try I think we tried D8s, D10s, D4s. Was like, but in the end it was like too complicated, and there's just something good about keeping the dice simple. So it's always that 1 in 6 chance.
Okay.
Because as soon as you roll a D10, it's like there's too much uncertainty in a way, and it's just so difficult to communicate to the players what the different dice means exactly. But it just seemed and also like with the whole Dicey Dungeons type requirements on the spells, it's so much easier when you have that, like, it has to be a 6, it has to be a 4, it has to be above, like below 4s, and it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
If you can have like a 10 all of a sudden, it becomes a bit tricky to do exactly.
Yeah.
With that being said, it might be something that we experiment with at some point. We figure out like a way to actually maybe not using a D10 or just something where you can get values that is above 6. But
D4, D8 could work perhaps.
Just like, a consumable that rolls a one-time D20. You're like, I'm not sure why not.
I'd be fine with that. Lightning Wizard only uses D10s.
But I think it's in regards to doing the D6, I think it's good to keep that simplicity there so that you can add complexity elsewhere. And I think it just makes sense. At no point did I even consider that they'd be anything other than D6s until now.
I'm in the same boat, but I wanted to ask, because it's just like, did you try? Because you know,
I think it's a limited like a consumable or something. It could be fun because then you are willingly accepting that chaos, and if you're upset with the result, then you shouldn't have done it.
Actually, for a long while in the beginning of the game, we didn't really have 3D dice, and we weren't really sure if like does it make sense to put dice into like cards and stuff. So at a point it was just sort of like gems that would like flip around and give you a number, which just didn't really feel natural either. So, and dice, like once we had the dice in the game and it was actually in 3D and rolling across the screen, it was just like, this is perfect.
Yeah,
there's a cultural understanding of D6 that is hard to beat.
Yeah, exactly. It's so clear.
Let's see. So, I guess apart from the dice, how did you come up with SpellRogue's mutation system? Or Ascension System for people that haven't played SpellRogue yet. I haven't gotten to it, so this is mostly just a question from Rito.
This is basically just my opportunity to gush about the fact that it's my favorite Ascension system in a roguelike.
Oh, so happy to hear that. I think like our main inspirations is if you know the game, it's obviously Slice and Dice, which we've really been looking a lot at when we made the Ascension system. Like we did have earlier Ascension system as well that like was more State Aspire-like, and we tried something a bit more, something in between. But at the end, we just looked at what Slice and Dice is doing, and just felt like that was the most natural. It fits so well to our game. It's so good at like adding variety to each run.
But we still also have ideas for like how we can further improve it. Right now, we sort of have like a thing where you select, like just to explain to the viewers. Basically, you select at the start of a run, like a few mutators that change how the game works. So there might be like extra power on your opponents, or you might lose dice during when you roll them, stuff like that. But basically, you draft these at the beginning, and it sort of can punish you a bit too much in the first beginning of the game. So we're thinking about like ways of like waiting for like or making you draft these mutators later in the game instead as well.
Well, so some of the ideas we're working on is also just having a like a meta system where you can maybe have some mutators that is always active, or you have some like positive mutators that you unlock, and then you can use those, but then you have to have more of the negative mutators on as well.
I love when systems do that, because it's I get that you're climbing a difficulty and it's supposed to keep getting tougher, but like there's these like internal rewards where I feel like it's important to keep in mind that the people that play your game the most, like that put in like hundreds of hours, are going to usually be playing the top difficulty because they feel like they're supposed to. So it's nice for that to also be the most fun difficulty, and I feel like a lot of games don't reward the fun aspect for getting. But I think that the mutations in SpellRogue do add interesting puzzles, which is why I like them so much. That they cause you to work around it, and you inflict them on yourself. So if there's one that you really don't like, you just don't pick it, because it kind of avoids, by doing one thing, if people don't know, you get a randomly selected pool of these mutators, unless that's changed since I've last played. So you get a random set. So you don't fall into a trap as you would in like Hades or something, where you have this set of finite difficulty modifiers, and you're like, I don't like that one, so I'm never going to use it. It might show up where you're like, just looking at these, I guess I'm going to challenge myself with this one today because this is worth 8 points and I need 10 points to get this difficulty level. So again, this was my opportunity to gush, saying thank you. I hope people look at your system, because I think that Slice and Dice had a wonderful one, and I think this is a better version of that, because it has that kind of finite randomization. You can take more modifiers than you need. If you're just somebody who wants challenge for the sake of challenge, it's there, but you're just rewarded for a certain amount. But I just want to say thank you. There you go.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's great too.
That actually sounds like an Ascension system I might care about.
Yes.
I've been permanently locked to Ascension level 1 and Slay the Spire for forever. Same thing with Monster Train and pretty much every other game, because I don't know, just felt like giving me more junk and it's not much
Yeah.
more fun.
Most Ascension systems for me, it comes to the point where I have to, as the player, I feel like I'm doing some dev work to figure out which Ascension system level is still fun, like while giving me some kind of, I don't know, like maybe you get the extra meta experience or something, which it's useful, but you're also like, okay, do I like this game less because I feel like I have to play this highest difficulty? And I did not get that with SpellRogue because they're interesting difficulty modifiers and I subjected myself to them. So
Yeah, that's okay to hear. That is it's definitely been our goal, but yeah, it's hard to know if it really works all the time. But yeah, really happy to hear that.
Let's see. I guess the other question before we move maybe a little bit more industry centric, what was your design process for each character? Because I remember the earliest version that I think I'd seen, you didn't even really have the water wizard. You said you had kind of more of a prismy character, right? How did you determine like what the characters were good at, and how did they specifically like develop, and how did you I guess kind of design the game around them being distinct?
So in the sense of gameplay, it's we started with like ways to interact with the dice. So rerolling is like quite normal in dice games. So that's like the first one we start you off with, right?
With water.
With water, yeah.
Okay.
And then the other wizards sort of have different, like there's a few different 4 different loadouts for each wizard, but so there's a few different ways to manipulate dice for each wizard.
Okay.
But each of them have like their own unique like thing basically. So Earth instead grows dice, so slowly makes them bigger and bigger and bigger, and really likes big dice to cast spells with. Whereas Fire is all about, at least part of Fire is about disassembling dice into smaller dice and then mass using them into a single spell. And there's a few other things as well, like other ways to manipulate spells and dice. But that's sort of like the gist of the beginning of each of them.
Cool.
What was the question? Was that
mostly just like how did you determine what beyond just I guess the dice? How did you determine what each was good at? Because like obviously the water wizard has a lot of poison behind it, and so I'm kind of curious, like how did you allocate the different build archetypes to them, or is it much more just kind of natural? Like, well, obviously poison is a water thing.
Yeah, I think it was like very natural that like we knew we wanted to do a poison mechanic, and it was just like which element does this fit into, and water was the obvious one.
Okay.
I think you could say the same thing with the fire has critical as like one of the main things. Yeah, I don't know.
It was sort of like natural. I think we did like I do remember we had like a big spreadsheet at one point. We were like trying to like slot different things into how they like could work together in a single wizard. But I think like at other times we just pulled out a mechanic and put it over into a different wizard as well. So it did change every now and then, but it's just like as most things we do, it's just all about iteration. Like we used to put out like an update on Discord like every 3 weeks where people could just play it and give us feedback. And then we just sort of went from there. So it's like that constant loop of making changes, see what people think, and then make changes again, basically.
Also, just a quick question on character design from like the art standpoint. I know because there was originally the one, I guess like the default character. What was kind of the decision point where it's like, okay, we're not using that character. Now we're going to split them into the 3. Was that going to be the water character, or was it going to be one character doing all the elements? What was the plan there? Because I know she's not in the game right now.
Yeah, so originally we had like sort of a more Pixar kind of looking girl. And actually we just weren't like fully satisfied. She didn't really fit into the art style of the creatures that we had been doing, and we were more happy with the art style of the creatures. So I think we signed with Ghost Ship, our publisher, and they were also like, the game is great, but like the player characters is all the same. It's the same girl, just in different colors, outfits, and it was like, it's not, could be better, basically. So they helped us out with some brainstorms and some designs, and I'm really happy that they pushed us into that direction instead, because it's much better now, I think.
I think the new designs are fantastic.
Yeah,
I think the water one is a huge standout to me, especially. I think that like the helmet or head or whatever you would
like a
call
water thing.
Yeah, the water part of the water guy. I think it's so cool. I don't know. I think that it is better now. It's a thing that I had a lot with SpellRogue when playing it. Whenever I had to come up with a new title for a new video, I'm like, it's better than last time, I promise you. Like I know I said I didn't think it was gonna get better. And it's like that was another one of those things where it's like I keep on being impressed with the ways that you're improving. And I think that these new characters are really they have a lot of character to them. And I do think it was a good improvement too, yeah.
I like the Earth Nature Wizard. I like her big hair. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something about that is just kind of fun to me. Let's see. So you'd mentioned that you would release a build every 3 weeks to your Discord. You guys had the demo up for like a while as like just kind of more or less the full game. Maybe sans Act 3. I think Rito and I had access to that. I don't know if other people did. But what was your experience more or less having a demo up for? Was it like a year and a half, longer?
I think it's only been, wait, what did we put up in October?
I think it was in October.
It was October? Okay. I've just been under I guess I've had access to a much fuller version of the game for so long that it's just, I've assumed it was available. But I guess from our side of things, devs never do that for YouTubers. Like we never have access to just the full game for long periods of time as it develops. And so SpellRogue has been actually very unique for at least me to like load it up every once in a while and be like, wow, this really is quite different.
Yep. Oh, I haven't seen it.
I think we opened up the demo in October at the Steam Next Fest, and before that we did Steam playtests and dabbled a bit with that, and then even before that, like at the very beginning, we did just the open links for download on Discord, just to anybody who are interested. And I think in terms of like how the demo has run has been pretty good. I think the playtests were like equally as useful. And the reason for doing a demo, of course, is just to gather interest and get feedback on the game as well.
Get some more people into Discord as well. Just get some more.
Just grow things, of course. And then at the end of the day, that's also like we want to collaborate with Steam, of course, and they have an interest in people being on the platform and being doing something, and free demos like accomplishes that. So like it's just a way to show Steam. I think there's like some hidden benefit to having a demo that Steam is more like likely to push your game if you like interacted with the Steam community.
Interesting. I don't know fully the how Steam would handle those. I do know it's usually wishlist manipulation. I hate using that word, but it feels like wishlists are kind of the go-to way of getting seen more than anything else. Would you mind telling me how many wishlists you guys have leading up to launch? You can say no, of course.
Sure. I guess that should be fine, right?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
We are at 32,000, 33,000, I think.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. It's climbing right now. We're doing a lot of outreach with these interviews and journalists, but hopefully it'll like do like a quick ramp up even higher. But at like the other games we've been looking at, similar games have sort of had that ramp. Astrea being one of them. So we hope to achieve something similar.
Yeah. And I'm sure the streamer sphere is probably going to take it and run with it for a while, especially with major updates and whatnot.
Yeah, I think it has a really, because there's a difficult thing. It used to be that early access would come out, and you would get a lot of you'd updated a bunch, and you'd get your feedback there. But I feel like since we've had so much of that, and we've seen so many early access games have a long period of time come out in 1.0, and these new early access games are kind of being compared to the 1.0 releases of other games.
Yep.
I feel like SpellRogue is maybe doing, like, hopefully what is going to be the new thing, which would be the demo is what early access was.
Yeah.
For those people, because when I played the playtest originally back, I think in like July 2022 or something, when I played the playtest, I felt like it was a pretty, like, aside from the missing zone, like if I didn't see missing artwork at that time, I would have been like, yeah, this feels like a more complete game than some early access games I played.
Yep.
And I feel like the demo acting as that new version of that, I hope will be very helpful for the game. Was that like, was there any point where that was the active decision? Because, like, was it trying to basically, was that the plan all along to just do all that development, and then early access is going to be this kind of just big new thing?
I think it's for a while we've just been, in our minds, we've just been seeing that the early access just makes sense for a game like this, because we kind of need that. We need enough community to get like the balance of the game right. In a game like this, balance is just everything in a way. Having like things not be overly overpowered. Everything should be kind of viable to in some cases, all spells and artifacts. So it just feels like we cannot really achieve that in a 1.0 release. We have some time where we have like more players, and maybe we could have achieved it if we had like a much bigger playtest, much bigger demo. But
a prologue seems to be the new thing.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that would be a different way to do it.
But I think that another way where the demo is helping, because like a lot of times games are coming out in early access, and you're making these balance changes. Like you said, balance is everything for these games. And there's a couple of the changes you made in the demo that, like I said, I looked at it the first time and I'm like, I don't know if I like this. And then I played for 10 more minutes and I was like, I love this. Like, this was a great choice. But if you ever take anything away from a player, they get upset. They might leave a negative review or something like that. So I think the fact that you are making these changes that are controversial but ultimately good before that people have a chance to leave reviews, I think is going to be very helpful. Like, entering early access with all that growing pain already done is why I mentioned what I did. I think it's going to be very helpful for the game.
Yeah, removing the tiered upgrades before it came out in early access was real smart.
But I love only having one spell that I care about the whole game. Why would you take that away from me? Not realizing, like, it's gonna be a lot more replayable if you want, to switch your cards sometimes. Otherwise, you're just gonna play the exact same game every time and get bored.
Exactly.
So it kind of like saving the players from themselves before they can get mad that you're saving them from drowning. Like,
don't you dare besmirch my poison only runs.
I mean, the thing is, you can still get broken. I think I've had my strongest run since the changes, and it's because I feel like I'm being encouraged to actually experiment. Is the thing, and it's great.
No, it makes total sense. So, did you specifically plan on getting all of those hard nerfs out of the way first, or was that just kind of a natural thing of like, oh, this does not work, we need to remove this soon?
A bit of both, I'd say. It's both, like, we are sort of scared of the Darkest Dungeon sort of thing, right? Where suddenly there's corpses on the floor and nobody likes it, basically. So it is good to get that sort of thing out of the way and get things like to a pretty polished state, especially when you release into early access. Like, you are pretty much compared to like the 1.0 releases, because that's what you are competing with in terms of what people use their time on, right?
Yep.
So yeah, it just felt natural that we wanted like to be in a pretty good state and have everything, like the foundation of the game is there, as enough content for people to play around and have fun, and there's enough like characters and all that. And then after during early access, we can just like add more systems and more content on top of our existing solid foundation.
But we will probably also have to break some things.
It's possible.
Bring it access.
Yeah.
It's very possible.
It's inevitable, probably.
Definitely. Yeah.
Let's see. I guess other question for kind of the demo and the playtest and whatnot. And you said you were kind of getting people to try and get to your Discord, which I might as well say I've for people listening to this, watching this, I do have a link to I will have a link to the SpellRogue Discord, so people can go there. But I saw you guys have, I think it's 1,000 or so members of the Discord, or it's like just shy of.
I think we got above 1,000 like very recently, but
okay,
yeah, around 1,000.
So did you see like a ramping consistent player base, or has it been kind of spiky around like when the playtest launched and then the demo, or is it kind of just a slow curve upwards?
It's very spiky. Right?
It is very spiky, especially when you guys make videos. We see like a sudden spike
that's
of,
the biggest
of
spikes.
interest. So we're very happy that you guys like the game, and
Hopefully it's a good community. If not, I'm sorry.
it's great. It's great.
You're welcome, or I'm sorry, depending.
But it is very spiky.
Okay.
But at the same time, like we've been around, we developed the game since 2020 August, so it's 3.5 years now. So it also is just like sort of that slow ramp up, and then once we hit early access, I'm expecting more people to join as well.
Oh yeah. I guess kind of that's a segue to a later question I'd written down of, so you started this in August of 2020. Was this kind of like we don't have anything to do during COVID lockdown, we should make a game together? Or what was the origin of SpellRogue? How did you guys start working together on it? Was it kind of like a pre-existing partnership? Did you guys know each other before? Or is it kind of just happenstance of like, hey, let's make a cool game?
So Tim and me worked together in the same company, and I don't know, we were not like that happy with that was like several issues. Still, I don't know, it's a great company. Still, I can't say anything bad about them. It was still a good time, but like we like both drifted out of the company. I still worked part time for a while at the place, but we like just taking it one step back, like Tim and me really bonded over just, first of all, just having that perfect partnership of just programmer artists, and like both loved working on design, so it just felt very natural to just work together. And we have done that a few times in the company where we just like were put together and just had to make something, and it just turned out really well. So we knew that we had something with each other, and then we also just had similar interest in games. We both like love board games, and I actually got Tim to play this insane strategy game called Dominions, which like we are kind of very much into, or at least back then we played it so much.
We still play it.
We still play it. Yeah. It's very time consuming.
But it's basically like a very excessive strategy game where you mail in your turn every day, and then the turn rolls, and then you see what happens. So it's like slightly mail ordery chess, but very, very advanced.
I just looked at the Steam page and I'm like, oh, that's where the Super Auto Pets Total War comes from.
Yeah,
exactly.
pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not. It's a great game if you're into really, really nerdy games.
Okay.
But and again, then we started talking. We also had one guy on the team initially that like dropped out after a few months. Like nothing negative about him either. He's still our friend, but don't hate him. But and then we started working on it part time, right? We just like it was a year. Like at least the first year we were just like very few hours that we spent.
Yeah,
like comparatively few, right?
You worked part time. I pretty much just bootstrapped through the first couple of years, and then we just continued working on the game, just me and Thorbjorn, basically for no money, just for like the love of the game and like the belief that it could become something like good and interesting.
You were right.
And then we signed with Ghost Ship Publishing last year in. When was it? 9 months ago, something like that.
Yeah. I think we started talking in January, but the contract was in April or something before everything got signed. Yeah.
Because at that point we had been talking to other publishers as well, and they were like sort of interesting, but they weren't really ready to give us like a deal we wanted to take, and we couldn't really agree. And then we ended up meeting up with Søren from Ghost Ship Publishing.
The CEO from
the
Ghost Ship.
CEO.
From Ghost Ship
And
Games.
we had a talk with him on a Friday and gave him a key to the Steam build, which we had just pretty much just put it on Steam then. And then he came back on the following Monday and having played like 10 or 15 hours and saying, okay, we have to figure something out. This has to like work out.
Yeah.
And we were very happy because like otherwise we would have probably put it out into early access.
Like it has to be said, like the reason why we were talking to Søren was like they were not publishing back then. We were just talking with them because we needed guidance how to self-publish. Like that was our plan at that point. We wanted to just self-publish because we were just the publishers are not interested. But we knew that we already had the contact with Søren, the CEO, that he just likes helping indie guys. So we were like, oh, can we just get a meeting to just like help us out?
So SpellRogue was so good they decided to get into publishing because of you.
There you go.
I think we were part of it. They had some at least one other company that they really wanted to do something with. But I do think we pushed them to start the publishing department. I don't know if that's
cool.
actually true, but
I hadn't heard about them publishing games more or less prior to you guys, and for the most part, I still don't know too many of their other published games. So it's just kind of like, Ghost Ship publishing you is kind of unique, and I'm curious to see where that goes. And so I was curious to see how that started.
We will be the first game that they publish as well.
Yep,
we will be the first one to come out. Oh, yeah.
So we do also have like a lot of like similarities with Ghost Ship. Like they work a lot with their community, and the whole how they handle that is like very inspiring to us, I think, at least so and just like being open with our community is like our big thing. So I think there's a lot of like crossover, and that's also why we work well together with Ghost Ship, I think.
Cool.
And why it fits.
So I guess not knowing how publishing really works from a developer end, what does Ghost Ship specifically do for you guys? Is it like most of the marketing work, the community management, or is it kind of more like back end stuff?
I'd say it's more back end stuff in a way. It's more like some help with like part of it is also just like just discussions, talking about like what they think we should put into the game. What they think we should focus on, but also help with QA, help with localization, help with like some so as Tim mentioned, like help with the character art. They also help with the trailer. The whole kind of different things that we just like we're not that good at. Like we're missing some skills in.
So just providing feedback on like some of the UI stuff and like how should progression work in the game, for example, for instance. Like, of course, we have the final say and the creative control, but just having somebody who's like really good at specific things is really nice to have, like to be able to get like proper feedback from a specialist, basically. And then there's like a whole business side. They sort of also act as a mentor. Like me and Thorbjorn didn't really have any like proper business. Like starting a company and all that can be a pretty big task. Yeah. And then also make a game at the same time is also a big task. And then also like there's so many of those things, right? So it's been great to have them help us.
And then I guess the final follow-up for them is, do they have any like cool secret benefits that you wouldn't know about, like parties or like guns from Deep Rock Galactic that you guys have been able to get your hands on, or anything like that?
Not quite yet. But I have heard a little bit about like a custom beer somewhere along the grapevine. Let's see.
That's a fun perk.
But I don't know. Not too much of that stuff.
Okay.
Not yet. Let's see.
We've been at some parties of theirs, but I think that's kind of.
So I guess other kind of back end thing. So you said you worked part-time on SpellRogue for like the first year and a half or so. What was kind of the turning point where you said, nope, this is the full-time project now? And kind of how did you establish a working for yourself workflow? Because like the difference between working for a company, at least on my end, to then working for myself is pretty stark. And so I'm always curious about like how did you guys kind of adjust to that, and how did you even make the decision?
I think it like progressed over time in a way, because I reduced my part-time hours over time, and also like I think maybe from the start of last year, there was like a point where we would like could start seeing like, okay, people are actually interested in this game. Probably around where you made your first video, retro. I think that was the point where like, okay, maybe this is actually we need to focus more on this. We need to really take this seriously.
It was probably the first big spike we had in like interest and wish lists, and suddenly we could sort of see, okay, this can actually like pan out into something that can like sustain a company for.
This is something people would buy. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It makes sense that we start using more of our like savings to actually continue the game, because before that it was so uncertain. Everything was just, we don't want to like risk too much, because we had no idea at that point
Yeah.
where it was going. It felt like
But yeah, bootstrapping for that amount of time is also fairly difficult. Like it's a lot of like living on very cheap food, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
Yep. Let's see. I guess, do you guys have kind of like a favorite part about working as indie developers? And a least favorite part? Just pure basic anything. For me, it's invoices. I hate invoices. Just wish I could never do them ever again. Do you have stuff like that, or is it all just kind of, actually, no, this is kind of nice?
Wait, did you ask for like least favorite or favorite?
Both.
Oh, both. So the first least favorite thing is the first thing I thought of is making UI. Honestly, just making the graphical interface for like it's putting buttons on the screen, figuring out that whole layout. It's just something it kind of falls between Tim and me. With like neither of us is really good at it, so we're like we kind of have to push that ball between us. And I think that will be the first person, if we hire somebody at some point, it's going to be a person that actually is like understands UI. I think like over time we kind of like we learned how to do it, and we kind of can do something decent now. But for a long time we just we're struggling so much with it, and there's some UI, some screens that we have like reworked 5-6 times because we just kept like figuring out, oh, this doesn't really work. Oh, people don't see the buttons here, and I don't know. And there's still issues, I would say, but it's gotten a lot better. It's gotten a lot better over time.
It seems like that's a common least favorite too. I've seen a lot of people, and then I saw a tweet the other day from the Meteor Fall dev who said, my favorite thing in development is making UI, and I was like, this seems twisted. I was like,
we need to hire that guy.
So get in touch with him. It's his favorite part of making games is the UI, so go get him.
But it is kind of interesting that we're basically making a UI based game, right? And neither of us are like, that's like our focus point. But that's just, I guess most games are to some degree very UI based. Do you have a not so favorite thing, Thorbjorn?
I was more thinking like favorite things.
Oh yeah, favorite. Sorry.
So yeah, I don't know. Like kind of one of my favorite things, honestly, is just making tools for the game. Just making things that makes our jobs easier. And that's just I don't know. I have like I'll just share my screen quickly if you're interested in just seeing some fun things that we have like developed over time. I'm not sure how interesting this actually is for anyone besides like.
I think it's very fun to see.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right, it's good to.
But it's basically this is an editor for spells, where you have like different like modules you can like put in all the descriptions and upgrades and stuff like that.
So first of all, like every single spell you can just like take test in combat, and then you're inside combat, and now you're ready to use that spell, right?
Oh wow.
On the
So,
note of something mentioned way in the beginning, usually I'm not somebody who like jumps on mod support. I'm like, that's the perfect final update for a game, usually is what I think.
Sure.
This thing right here looks like if a modder had
Mm.
their hands on this, it would probably be like the most prolific modding scene of any
Yeah.
roguelike that I've seen. This
That's-
looks
Definitely.
so good for UX. Like I just throwing that out there. If a modder, if I could make really good modded
Yeah.
decks with this.
Yeah.
I'm in the same
it
boat.
Seems like it's we need to do it at some point. And the whole like every single spell, artifact, potion, everything in the game, all the enemy actions and achievements and so on, they all use the same system for like the effects. So I'm just looking at a potion here that has like you gain a Hellstorm and you roll a dice, and then I don't know, the roll dice is just an effect. Oh my god, Unity just crashed. Well, that's
New least favorite
Yeah.
part of the job.
oh my god, that's perfect.
But yeah,
So do you ever
but
just
Torbjorn-
crank up an effect for fun? Like just say roll 1,000 dice just to see
Oh,
what
yeah,
happens.
Oh yeah. Sometimes we.
It's
definitely do things like
mostly for gifs for Twitter and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. That makes
That's
sense.
very useful. That's very useful. Wait, so yeah, let me just one more thing because I love showing off these tools. So we have this. So we had all these editors, right? That just like, oh, then you can see all the spells here. That's very useful, and that's one for artifacts and potions and so on. All very useful. But sometimes you want to get like you want to see everything. So I made the everything editor. So and here you can search for like power. Then it just shows
That's-
everything that has like power in its name. Or you can say like, wait, I think I need to write like everything that has like the deal damage effects.
Wow.
And let's go like elemental type has to be water. So every water spell. Wait, elemental type. It's colon. That's why. There we go. So all water that has or just power on the water spells or whatever, weak and power spells.
I'll
I'm
definitely tell you
getting-
this is tickling my brain at the very
Yeah,
least.
yeah,
this
that's-
is exactly the part of my brain that I like getting lit up.
I remember modifying Neverwinter Nights back in the day as a kid, making like custom spell effects and weapons, and this is that, but so much better. To echo what Rito said about mod support and mod tools, you've already made the mod tool. Like this is it.
True.
It's right here.
It's true. It's I've used a lot of mod tools in the past, and I'm just, I could make something really, really crooked with this.
Yeah.
But it definitely makes sense. So like we work on actually getting some of this into the game.
Mhm.
There's definitely like a lot of challenges actually getting this.
Yes.
Because that's also just a lot of jank that you're not seeing when you just see it.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
I'm
Things
sure.
that like, oh, you just have to remove it and add it again, and
Yeah.
then it works, or whatever. Like something that's
The kind
humanly
of
has just
thing that
accepted over
doesn't
time. Like,
doesn't matter because nobody else has to see it.
exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Just one more thing that I'm happy about that I want to show off. Change notes, automatic change note at the bottom of each.
Ooh.
So you just have that overview of like what did we actually change over time.
That's
Was
really
the spell
cool.
different?
That's real.
Or just like,
I know that patch notes are another least favorite thing of many devs, and that seems like that could be very helpful for it.
Yeah. And then of course I have a system for just exporting the change note, but it's still just like in a very raw format that you need to go in. Yeah. Like,
But actually, like making the change log is not that bad because you sort of, depending on how long you worked on it, like if it's been like a month, 2 months, sometimes you sort of just forget like what did we actually do like these last 2 months. So going back through everything and like assembling a long list of all the changes can actually be quite cool. It's similar to like booting up like an old build and like seeing like, okay, this is like way different, and it's only like 2 months ago or something like that.
Seems like it could possibly be helpful in like figuring out why something broke with a bug too, potentially in some situations. Like it seems nice to have this stuff.
Just being able to go back in time and see, how did it actually work? But yeah, again, the question was just like, what do I like to work on? This is something that over time I've been spending a lot of time with just making
this
cool
is
tools.
incredibly cool. This is when I wrote this question, it was mostly a throwaway, but you have wildly surpassed any of my hopes and dreams for an answer on this one. This is super cool.
I would say that. That's good.
and also super useful because we are just the two of us. So being able to do things quickly is quite important. So this is sort of also an investment in like being able to make changes and make things fairly solid from the get-go.
Yeah.
And I just could just iterate on things. That is really so important for us in development. Can move quickly.
And it feels like if you ever make Super Autopads Total War, you could probably just do the exact same thing all over again.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely a lot of stuff that we want to reuse, for sure. Yeah.
Well, at this point, I've run entirely out of questions, but we can keep chatting about whatever. If you guys have any specific topics you want to talk about, Rito, if you have anything else that you've picked up.
Oh boy, I would just keep gushing is probably the thing, because like I was thinking because I play a lot of games, I play a lot of roguelikes, but I don't often immediately after the video feel the urge to be like, okay, I need to play more. And I definitely don't often take my first week-long vacation in like 3 years and play 15-20 hours of a game on my week-long vacation. I played SpellRogue on the plane on Steam Deck, and I'm telling you, it's a wonderful game. That's wishlisted. There you go. I'll help with the important thing there.
Well,
thank you.
I think this interview is going out on the day of release, so don't just wishlist it.
Well,
buy
wishlist it and then buy it.
Yeah,
do both. It probably works. It probably helps. Who knows?
And leave a review. I know that helps a lot,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
So.
I always feel slightly guilty as a creator not leaving reviews, because I'm like, I know it helps, but I know it doesn't help as much because I got the key for free, and Steam says like this means nothing, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm just a voice in the crowd.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will echo what Rito has said. I haven't played as much as him. How much have I played? Only 8 hours, but even then, that's more than I play for most games. Yeah, it's not even out yet, and I've played 8 hours. That is saying something. So I guess actually the Steam Deck was something I hadn't asked about or even thought about. Did you guys really plan on Steam Deck support, or did it just kind of work conveniently right from the get-go?
I think we've been focusing on just controller support. That's been our goal for a long time. And it was just then it was very natural that like Steam Deck also needs to be and it's kind of automatic as soon as you have controller support. Like the Steam Deck there's not much else you need to do.
Okay.
The sort of obstacle to the Steam Deck is sort of just the size of the screen, because we do have like fairly like a lot of text, which can be small. So there's some challenges we still have to like sort of figure out, but it's heading in a pretty good direction.
We're not gonna get this Steam Deck certified stamp, but whatever it is, that's something you can get like that is made for Steam Deck, and with but maybe 1.0 we can get it. So but maybe later.
I'll say when I played it on the plane, it was completely workable. It has like the touch screen too, so you can even like it's not obviously it wasn't designed around. We can like drag the dice into the slots, and it felt really nice. It feels like there's definitely some good Steam Deck potential. I think that when it comes out, those who have the Steam Deck will immediately want, like I did. I was like, okay, I don't use this very often. This would be perfect on this. Like it's one of the few things I played on the Steam Deck because I think it does translate well to kind of that like pick up, put down, and even if there's ever touchscreen support in any way, like it kind of just works as the mouse or whatever. It feels like a good fit for it.
Yeah, I only play deck builders on my Steam Deck. I've tried other games. It's like, no, this feels bad. Oh, deck builders. That's good.
It's the Steam Deck for a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was great.
So I guess with the controller support, was that purely just for accessibility reasons? Or I haven't actually checked if SpellRogue's launching on anything else other than Steam. Are you planning on bringing it to like every platform, or?
It really depends. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Right now it's only Steam, so we are running the early access. It's just easier to just focus on Steam. But who knows, down the line it might be a possibility.
Okay.
But also just for gamepad, it is accessibility. Some people just prefer playing with a controller, and I was not convinced in the beginning, but once Thorbjorn got it in and everything is like was polished and everything, it is actually quite nice just to like sit back and relax and then just like play with a controller instead.
Yeah,
cool. Might actually be able to convince my wife to play more. She really liked the Nature Earth Wizard because I had her try and record a video once, and unfortunately she did 2 runs. One where she just did absolutely incredibly well, and then she hit the record button and it was not nearly as good. And so I've been trying to get her to play again because I want to get her into deck builder roguelikes, especially because I think she would like them. But controller support would help a lot because both of us have RSI issues.
And then, you know, if you got controller support, you can just there's plenty of ways to get it up on the TV or something. But there you go. You have your console right there. You don't need to port it. I'm sure that's how it'll work.
That's true.
But I also know that many like console stores have like you have to jump through more hoops to get updates. So like if you're further along with the updates, it's probably going to be easier to get it over there. You don't have to worry about jumping through all those hoops and getting it approved this many times. So I can imagine that being a later thing. Also, it's just when I think about the game, I think PC first anyways.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that just made sense.
Yeah, and we're just expecting to do many smaller updates in the beginning and then slowly like transition into like larger content updates like later points. So it just makes sense just to be able to run quickly and respond to the community.
Makes a lot of sense from a content creation perspective. I really like it when it's a major update every once in a while, so I have a reason to come back. There's a couple games that I adore, and all of their cool features are just like quietly just like pushed out the door, and I don't find out about it until the game's like, yeah, we're coming out 1.0, and I'm like, wait a second, but I would have loved to cover your game prior, but I had no like kind of reference point of this is the time to come back. And so,
like a tentpole update.
Exactly. Yeah. And so when you said like, small updates first makes sense, get all the bugs, design issues out of the way, and then tentpole updates later on, it gives me a reason to come back for more, which I mean is part of the reason why I think you can even track a lot of my coverage was somewhat based on, you know, this is when the playtest was live. This is when I think I got bored and just wanted to play more of it. This is when the demo went up. This is going to be when early access goes up.
Just special tentpole events, I'd say even from the creator side, I love an excuse to come back to something that I really like. Like, for example, if there's ever any like big clear updates for SpellRogue, it's the kind of thing where like, oh, thank God, I have a reason that I can convince my audience like this is a new time to watch this. Like there's certain games where I'm just waiting for it. Yeah. Usually I think I guess behind the curtain on my end, 3 months is the point where my audience is willing to like rewatch a game for like as though it's kind of a first video on the game. And so if that coincides with a like big named update or something, you know, this is the wind update, you know, then it's like, oh yeah, okay. This is the time for me to make a video on it, and hopefully my audience will be like, yeah, wind update.
That's good to know. So I hope we can like sort of like hit both things and segue into like the bigger updates. Sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Let's see. Unless we have anything else, I guess. So once again, I should probably mention that SpellRogue is not out today for us because we're recording this in the past, but for people watching this video, it's out now today. Do you guys have a price point? I'm sure people can check the Steam store right now and actually see, but I don't actually know.
It is $15.99.
That's a very reasonable price.
Euro and British pounds.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, so I guess to repeat one last time, of course, SpellRogue is out now in early access. Oh, you know what? The one thing I didn't ask is how long do you guys think you're going to be in early access for? As the one thing.
It's a little uncertain.
Okay.
But it's probably at least a year. It sort of depends on how things goes, more or less.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and what people want. What is like which features is the most interesting?
If it's a mega blockbuster hit, you'll be working on it for 7 years, like RimWorld or something.
Yeah,
it's possible.
Yeah.
All right,
that depends.
Well, I guess thank you so much, Tim and Thorbjorn, for joining us today, and also, of course, Retromation for backing me up here. This was a ton of fun talking to both of you, and I mean, I think I can speak for both Rito and myself and say, like, SpellRogue very much represents what we love in roguelikes, and also has both of us hooked in different ways, or maybe the same ways. And so I sincerely hope that the launch goes as well as I think both of us think it will go for you guys. And honestly, maybe I'll reach out for another one of these interviews when it hits 1.0 so we can talk again and see how things have changed on your end.
Yeah,
when you're a household name.
Yeah, exactly. when you're so famous, you might not have a reason to talk to me anymore.
Yeah. Don't forget us.
No, anytime. And thank you for having us on.
Yes, sure. Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, and before we go, one last reminder, of course, that SpellRogue is out now in early access on Steam. So if you guys want to go pick it up, I have left a link in the description below. And I guess it might even be on screen right now. I just realized I could do that like a couple of days ago, which I think is really cool. But of course, I just cannot wait to see what people do with this game. And honestly, I can't wait to see what Tim and Thorbjorn do with it as well. Early access is usually kind of a touchy affair, but boy, I mean, this game, they could have just launched this as 1.0 and I would have believed them. And the fact that it still has a ways to go is super exciting for me. But I guess with all that said, if you liked this video in any way, shape, or form, leave me a like, helps more than you know, and lets me know that you want to see more like this. I want to do a bunch of interviews. This is something that I personally want to start cultivating on my channel as just kind of a way of giving back to the developers that have supported me for so long, and as a way of highlighting the actual developers. You know, so many games are just, the developers are just the studio. You never actually see the faces behind them. And so I kind of want to pull back the curtain a little bit and actually talk to the people and bring them up a little bit and say like, hey, these are the cool people that make the cool games. Let's talk to them for a while. And so I hope you guys enjoy that as much as I have been. But with all of that said, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time.